Alright, close enough to 5, we'll start for real. So, if you don't know me, I'm Andrew Versa Zircon. I'm a game composer. I do game remixes. You can check out my website, zirconmusic.com. Got lots of free stuff on there. And once again, this piece is being written for a game called Dungeonmans. The link's in the chat. We can put that up every so often. It's being kickstarted. Your support is greatly appreciated on that. And hopefully, if it gets funded, then it's going to be an awesome soundtrack. If it doesn't get funded, we're going to have a bad time. So please check it out. Please play the game. And if you like it, support it. So what we have here, this is supposed to be a very tense piece, right? So we have strings, harp. The idea here is just to reinforce that tension. That's why I have, the very minor chords. This is what's called octatonic harmony. So that's when you go, here, I'll actually play it. This is a quick, let's see, not timpani, we'll use strings. So I'm not a composition major myself, but that scale there that you just heard, that's called octatonic because there are 8 notes in it, and you alternate whole and half steps, which sounds complicated, but so we're starting on A, right? And that's a half step up, and then a whole step, half, etc. So that's the basic idea of that, and I'm using a lot of that scale throughout this piece to make it very tense. So this part here is, it's a little bit lighter. And this leads back potentially very nicely into something else. So what I want to do is change the feel a little bit. I could loop back to the beginning, back to that. But we're going to try to do something a little bit different. So you notice, by the way, to create a new pattern really quickly, jump to the next unused one. You just hit F4 in FL Studio, so that's a very effective way of doing it. I also don't name any of my patterns. It's really bad. I think you can hit F2 and you can name it, so you can say like new section. But I always forget, and half the time I create a new pattern before I realize what I'm doing with it. So with that scale going down, we can kind of go to anything, really. And I want to stay with this dark mood, but maybe get away from some of the rhythms I was using before. So the main rhythm before was like... So maybe something different than that. Perhaps... Maybe we'll go to C sharp or D flat, depending on how you look at it. So that kind of sound uses a lot of fifths. And I can make it a little bit more dissonant, like... and that could work. But maybe we should establish like something of a rhythm first before writing the chords. It's hard to say. This is something where you kind of have to experiment a little bit, and I think a lot of people get frustrated when they're writing music, because if you don't have a clear idea of exactly what you're going to be doing, it can be tough to figure out what layer to start with. But here, it's really just trial and error. There's nothing wrong with not having the whole thing planned. I'm doing this off the top of my head. So maybe something slightly different, like maybe a little too heroic. So actually so these are mostly Fluid R3, Cadenza, which is a sound font, and I'm also using Eterol Hypercanvas for the authentic old school sound. I'm just going to improvise here a little bit. So something like this possibly could work as a sort of low melody. I think this is kind of the type of thing you might hear in Diablo. See, my playing's not too good. It's okay. Okay, yeah, so maybe focusing on the bass with some low strings here could be the best way to do it. So again, I'm going to improvise this. It's a little hard to hear that, I know, and what I'm going to do is tweak some of these chords, tweak the notes, and we'll clean that up. But maybe the first thing is layering this cello with something else, or maybe just putting it an octave up. Tweak these notes a bit here just to make it sound a bit better with the strings in the background. So I think this has a very, very dark feel. This is a little, the high note is sick. Yeah, I might put that back here. I'm just trying to figure out the basic chords. I actually don't remember what I had there. Was it that? Maybe that. That maybe? But I'm going to bring the volume of these down. So right now this is just sort of the meat of it with the strings, but I'm going to add other layers here. So we need to transition out so it doesn't lose all that energy, right? Something like, I'm going to keep the hi-hats going. I don't know if I'm going to keep these permanently, but this is just to give it something of a pulse I can hear. So maybe a pattern like that with the harp. Sorry about the keyboard. So here's what happened, right? My cats don't normally go in the recording room of my house, and the recording room is where I have my mic stand most of the time. The cats were very lonely while I was away for a few days, and so I let them into the recording room. I turned around for like 5 seconds, and then one of them jumped up onto... We had some foam on the wall, and the foam fell off the wall, and the cat fell off and knocked the mic stand over, and they broke the clip that holds my mic to the mic stand. So I actually just have my mic sitting on my desk right now. That's why my playing is a little bit louder. So yeah, they're pretty dumb animals, but... Again, this is to add movement, right? This is with eighth notes. This is the hard part, this chord at the end here. Okay, so now that we have this harp in, I'm going to double all the notes, but make the secondary notes quieter. So you hear that kind of thing a lot in older soundtracks like Final Fantasy Tactics and stuff. Yeah, definitely old school delay. Try doing Phrygian around the tonic at the high note. So to keep in, and then hold tone on the next chord. Yeah, that could work. I'm just want to add in some more rhythmic stuff first. Perhaps, let's see. How about some guitar? Just a little bit, so this isn't really a rhythmic thing. Ugh, playing is terrible. Sorry. So that's to add. Maybe I'll turn this down slightly. Okay. Yeah, actually, I kind of like the idea of, instead of doing hi-hats, maybe like a low pulse, like this. And this way it has the foreboding darkness that you would expect from a crypt full of... I don't know, Jim, what's the crypt full of? Oh boy, that's bad. Yeah, there you go. Oops, I have a swung thing here. Let's take that out. So what I'm trying here is a fade on the strings. That might be a little too loud and not loud enough at the beginning. It's really loud. I was going to try putting another instrument here to layer that cello, maybe like a French horn or something. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I could try oboe for sure. Maybe a little bit louder here at the beginning, actually, and then sort of decreasing in volume and then swelling back up towards the end, actually, I think could work pretty well. That last note is just a little loud. Yeah, that's the idea. Get that old school RPG style, right? I want to put some light splashes in here. And we're going to add some more orchestral percussion. I love that sleigh bell. This is one of my favorite samples. Definitely going to use it. Don't like the hi-hats. This is sounding pretty good. So you can hear when I'm working, for those of you that are just curious about the workflow thing, a lot of the time as I'm composing, I just sort of loop a section and, hey, thanks for coming, see you later. As I'm working, I try to keep iterating on the same section and produce, you know, the result that I'm going for. Oops, let's see. Let's try this instead. because we've established this this pattern, yeah, maybe a little too loud. Well, I kind of like it. Maybe just a little bit down. So because I've established this pattern, maybe something even darker after this, like just sort of on the downbeats. You know, something like that. Sort of like, what is it? Final Fantasy Tactics. There's that one really hard boss battle. I forget what it's called, but you just have Ramza at the beginning. I feel like it's kind of similar to that. So I want to try to evoke that feel of just, you know, dread. You know, because you could be eaten by a monster, or killed by one, or killed then eaten, or eaten then killed, depending. I'm thinking something like that could work, where it's very staccato. Also, what the heck is causing my... There's like some sort of a tail on something I'm using. Not sure what it is. Weird. Okay, well, can't do anything about that, I guess. You know what? I'm going to try moving my mic over here so you don't hear my playing quite so much. Yeah, okay. So we'll try something like this. This could be interesting. Something like that. Maybe, okay, let's try a different recording of the same thing. And maybe with some other elements involved. And quantization. I feel like when you have something this heavy, it makes sense to try to contrast it with something else. So maybe a lighter element that's sort of playing off these big, heavy, bulky hits. So, like, you know, this could be something where theoretically the player could be in the dungeon, they could be very low health, you know, and potentially in danger. Maybe not yet. Maybe they don't actually see any monsters yet, but it's just potentially a bad situation. Before it gets, you know, not necessarily a boss, but something where it could be very tense. And it shouldn't be totally 100% danger, because we might have a separate theme for that. Something like that. Let me try that with harp. crash here. Not that loud. Whoops, phone's ringing. Okay. I have an idea for this. So the harp went down. Let's try bringing it back up. Maybe layered with something else and with a different rhythm. Like, I'm going to try triplets here. So in FL, if you go to the line up here, you can go to the third beat, and this will let you create triplets. That something like that. Okay, so now this sounds pretty good again for tension. And instead of just going right away from that section, let me try copying it. We can make changes to the layering, kind of keep that groove, so to speak. Really bad at playing things, especially with latency, so forgive me for that. Oh right, I have to change the snap to be able to hear those. Definitely room here for other elements. Also, I forgot to save, so I'm going to save a new version. Highly recommend doing that. If you're using any music software, no matter what it is, you always want to save new versions. Don't just save it to one project file, because the project file can get corrupted no matter how often you save. So I recommend saving new versions all the time. Error day. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's actually really cool. Like something about the woodwinds with these old samples is actually really fun to play. Like they just play very well. Hey, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. Okay, I want to integrate some choir here. I had automated it down earlier, so I'm going to automate it back up to where it was. Yes, that's the sound I want right there. Check that out. Tweak that second chord, but that's sort of like there's a theme from Chrono Trigger. What is it? It's one of those really hard levels towards the end of the game. They do something like this. Yeah, there you go, Chrono Trigger-esque. Exactly. These samples are really not very good in the traditional sense. It's just sort of careful mixing. I'm not doing anything special. There's no fancy compression or anything like that, really. I just when I play things back, Black Omen. That's what I was thinking. When I play things back, I just tweak the velocities, which change the volume, and then each instrument here along the left. I've been adjusting this sort of as I go. I find it's a lot easier, and this is just my personal opinion, than when you're working. It's better to sort of mix as you go. Some people prefer to write everything out and then sort of render it and then mix it. But I find that if you do it that way, then you could write parts that just don't sound good, and you would assume that they sound good because they haven't been mixed yet. So if you mix as you go, then you have an idea of how everything sounds in context. But that's just my 2 cents. And for these, what I'm going to do is, of course, nice swell. That's how you got to do it with these. So with that in mind, so I like how that sounds. I need to make this next part. It can't just be like a repeat. It has to have some new content of some kind. Maybe like not repeating those because I did it once, and instead, there's more rhythmic stuff going on here. So perhaps as a contrast, taking out the bass entirely, and instead bringing that into another instrument, or making that. Let's see. Well, it needs something. It needs something in the bass. So we're going from here. Choices. It's tricky. Yeah, the tail in the choir is pretty long, but it's something of a authenticity type thing where if you listen to some of these old soundtracks like Warcraft 2, Final Fantasy Tactics, Suikoden, Final Fantasy 8, a lot of the times the samples, they didn't have like a really crisp start and finish, and because I'm trying to emulate that, things sort of wash over. They don't just start and stop quickly, with the exception of percussion. Percussion sort of has to do that. So, this is dangerous. So what can we do to enhance the danger, as it were? Ooh, actually, that's kind of cool, like the pitched up timpani. Oops, that was Final Fantasy VII. It actually sounds pretty good. This is like a 10 kilobyte sample. I don't know. I'm just continually impressed by the old technology that they had to use. go back. Maybe it might be interesting to actually take something that was earlier in the piece, use it later on, but just in a different sort of context. Yeah, you can get some of these samples for free. The sound fonts that I'm using, Fluid R3 and Cadenza, you can actually download those for free. Eterol Orchestral is not free. That is a plugin they produced that emulated the sound of the Sound Canvas SC88. It's kind of hard to get now. You can actually get a hardware SC88 for like $100, but in the meantime, you can get the Fluid R3 and Cadenza sound fonts, which are pretty good. So maybe something like this on a different instrument with some of the other stuff going on could be cool as a contrast. Actually, I have an idea. So instead of having the choir go in and out for this, let me just keep it going. Get some composition going. This will take a little bit of trial and error, as you'll see. That's how I roll. Bear with me. I have an idea for this. So see, and here. Do you guys hear those chimes in the background? Can you hear that on the mic? We have wind chimes on our wall, and the cat sits up on a perch and is actually whipping the chimes with her tail. I love it. Jill's away on vacation, my wife, and not on vacation, it's a business trip to China. And so I'm alone. The cats are my entertainment. Here's my idea. No. It's both. It's business and vacation. So she's performing with Video Games Live, and they're doing 2 shows in Shanghai and Beijing. And as a result, she's there for 2 weeks. So aside from the 2 shows and rehearsals, it's a vacation, I guess you could say. So what I'm doing here, this is sort of remixing, I guess you could say, what I wrote earlier. So I'm going to take this melody and I'm reharmonizing it. Still working on it. I'm going to take this and actually move it to the flute. Symphony of the Night, for the record. I think it's a great soundtrack. I think that's actually a nice way to kind of keep the mood changing. Let's hear that kind of in context, though. Going back to here. This is what I did last week, these 4 measures. Thank you. Appreciate it. So I'm surprisingly happy with that. I think that turns out well. Because again, with this game, we're going to have something of an interactive music system. So when you get to a boss, there's going to be like a danger theme that you'll get, and so aside from that, there's not something where it's literally changing constantly based on what you do. Therefore, the track sort of needs to encompass a different range of moods. I think it needs to make the player feel... They need to feel some danger. They need to feel some tension. But it can't be totally... Oh, that's cat again. But I think it can't be totally too dark and too tense, because there still needs to be a little bit of man in the Dungeonmans, as it were. So I think Jim would agree. And you could even be a lady Dungeonmans. It's not just for men. So now the question is, we have about 2.5 minutes on here. Feeling pretty good about it. And I want to sort of bring this back to the beginning somehow. So sort of gently sort of decrescendo back down. We'll see. So right, we're going back to here, so there needs to be something like sort of bringing it back eventually. Doesn't need to be all at once, but let me kind of copy some of those string chords from earlier and sort of play with them in the new key. Later. That. Okay, not that. Oh, right. I have to actually get the automation in there. That's why. Yeah. Okay, this should work. So what I'm doing is I'm transposing the stuff that I wrote. So I'm going to tweak this a bit, but. So I want to do... We need to go back to that main chord. I'm going to fade the choir out and then reintroduce the strings. We need to do that in a way that's subtle and that works well. So I want this base to be unaffected by the automation. I also want them to be introduced more subtly than they currently are being introduced. And the way to do that is by doing this. It's all about automation when you're trying to do very expressive stuff. So for example, I want these bass strings to fade out. Perfect example of where automation comes in really handy. I'm just going to fade those out slowly towards the end. Here we go. Previous section into this new section. To connect it back to the beginning, I need to have that same rhythm. So I'm going to take one of these layers. I'll use the tambourine from before. So it's going to be like this. So something else on top of here. That should be louder. So how can we connect those? Let's see. What was the last chord here? Right there, that's how to do it. It's going to take a little bit of smoothing over here. Yeah, I have reason. It's just for sample development, though. I don't actually use it. Let's cut that chord early because of the tail. Actually, this should be split up as well. That doesn't go with the chord before it. My rates is shoot me an email. We can talk about it. Very tricky transition here for the keys. Okay, so I think that will loop pretty smoothly once I have it exported. In fact, I could even show how that works. It's a little tricky. But let's listen back to what the crypt sounds like. So this is a total of about 3-ish hours, about 3 minutes of music, about 1 minute every hour, which is sort of what to shoot for. So yeah, let's listen back, check it out, and let me know what you think, and if you have any questions about it.
There you have it. So it should loop properly again. Let me just go back here for a second. I felt the timpani were a little too loud here. There we go. So they're a little quieter the first time, and then when they hit the downbeat, they pick up even more, which I think works well. And the other thing was I wanted to have some harp here. So I'm just going to sequence that real quick. Dungeonmans is the developer, and this is going to be part of the soundtrack to the games. This is all original. You know, I've already written about 8 songs for the soundtrack. Town theme, overworld, main theme, overworld battle theme, Dungeon 1 theme, desert theme, Dungeon 1 danger theme, academy theme. So yeah, it's coming along. So everything here, so to answer a few questions, everything here was made live on the stream. I had literally 0 ideas at all. So, you know, if you watch the first stream video, this one will also be on YouTube as well. This all came just totally, it was improvised. So, you know, I actually have a really hard time thinking of things, you know, in advance. I sometimes have a vague concept. Like, I kind of knew the feel I wanted to go for with this. But that's it. I didn't really have any notes or anything like that. And then with regards to the space, you know, I believe it or not, I really didn't do any fancy mixing here. I mean, the master track, just to show you, so I'm cutting off the really low frequencies, and the high frequencies is getting a little bit of boost to brighten it up a bit. And then over here, this may be contributing to the clarity. So around 250 to 400-ish hertz, that can become very muddy very quickly. So by decreasing that a bit on the master track, that kind of deals with preemptively some of the muddiness problems. But you don't want to overdo it, or else it can sound very thin. There's no compression, nothing like that. Some of the sounds, I think this is a string thing. I just wanted to bring out the brightness more. Same here, decreasing some of the bass. But mostly, the samples are relatively unprocessed. I mean, compared to any of my electronic tracks, this has far less mixing and mastering. This is the reverb I'm using, you can see here. And that adds... Well, I'll play without the reverb here. Let's hear it with the reverb. So it's subtle, but it adds, you know, this sort of just a nice atmosphere, really nice ambience. The reverb is on. I made a sub-master, so most of the channels go to that, but not all of them. There are a few that already had tons of reverb on them built in. The samples here are from the Roland SC88. They're in sound font form, so you can get Fluid R3 GM. You can also get Cadenza GM. And I'm using this plugin here, HyperCanvas. If you have Edirol Orchestral, you may have some of these samples already. So, just overall with the soundtrack, you know, I'm very, very pleased with how it's coming so far. This track, so I'd say this track is done. I mean, I might do some tweaks to it. I'll obviously have to loop it and provide a seamless version for inclusion in the game. But otherwise, you know, it's coming along pretty well. Soundtrack as a whole. Just for fun, if you want to hear one of the other things that I've worked on for the soundtrack, I can pull it up here. Well, thank you, I appreciate it. It does make it easier when you're using samples that are relatively easy to mix, because that way you don't have to worry about the mix quite so much. What was it? Okay, so some of the themes here. Let's check out. Well, here's the other dungeon theme, or not the other dungeon theme. Yeah, the overworld battle is pretty fun. So you could actually hear this in the Kickstarter, and just to sort of play this as a reference, just so you hear sort of the comparison in style. Whoops, here, let me fix that. Here we go. So that's a point of reference for this project. So now if I were to go, in the middle of this, you can hear it's like this same palette, same reverb, the same mixing. The thing with volume, the volume might be a little bit different from track to track. That's something that is a lot easier to tweak at the end of the process. When you have the whole soundtrack, you can sort of compare and contrast individual tracks. And then that's also something that we can do in the game itself. There's you can play a track at different volumes. So, but that's just to show you sort of what I'm going to keep saving this. Can't be too careful. Show you what the palette was and what the context was of this particular track. So, if the project gets funded, if Dungeonmans gets funded, then the idea is to do like a really full soundtrack, like 20, 30 songs, different themes for every dungeon. So already we have the crypt and we want to do like a graveyard theme, for example, would be cool. Stuff like that, different battle themes. And so, yeah, really, I mean, even if you don't think you would play the game yourself, please check out that link to the Kickstarter. You can just share it with somebody else. If you know somebody plays RPGs, they enjoy old school games, roguelikes. If they play Dungeons of Dreadmore, NetHack, things like that, definitely show them the link. Like it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, stuff like that. Here's another track we can do. Again, this is just to show you. This is the danger theme when you're in the dungeon. So just as an example, again, that's the dungeon danger theme. Deadly danger dungeon for any angry video game nerd fans. So, and all these are supposed to loop ultimately. So just for fun, I should be able to talk as I do this, actually. I'm going to show you how I turn this into a loopable track for the game. This is not yet loopable, so I'm going to export this. My mic should still work. So here's what I'll do. I'll go to Dungeonmans. We'll call this DM crypt pre-loop. And I'll change the rendering quality because the quality doesn't actually matter for this. And hit render. I'm going to show you exactly how a seamless loop is created. While it's rendering, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. Also, if you want to ask about the game, Jim's here. Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to loop this back to the beginning, and I wrote it so that I would. That's why I had to get that key change at the end to make sure that it would kind of get back there. There are different approaches, there's no real right way. This way I find it's pretty cool. Okay, so open up a different part of this. Reaper is very good. Set my command. Drag the file in that area. Okay, can you hear me now? I have no idea why that continued to play. Okay. Sorry about that. Alright, so what I was saying was I used Reaper for looping, actually, because it's very, very precise. Now, to be able to stream from Reaper, I just need to add the same plugin I was using in FL, which is called Voxengo Recorder, but it doesn't really matter what it is. Okay, so what you should hear the track in Reaper now. Is that coming through? Or at least for a second there. Okay, so we're at 92 BPM. And we want it to loop on the downbeat. So right there, I'm going to put a marker. Now see, after that marker, there's still a ton of material. So I'll show you what it sounds like if we don't do anything about that. Or, whoops, I have to select the region like this. Okay. So here's what it sounds like without the optimization for the loop. This is just chopping off that tail. So on the very end of the downbeat, this sounds okay, but because there's this tail that you're expecting to hear, the tail is getting cut off. You might not be able to hear it as well over the stream, but on headphones listening to the track directly, you would hear it. So the simplest solution is actually to take this tail and move it to the beginning of the track. And then that way, when you first play it, it sounds the same. You're not really hearing a difference in the tone of the piece. But then when it loops, it's actually totally seamless. There's no click, there's no pop, there's nothing like that. So that's one way to do it. There's actually another way to do it. And this is, so I'm going to export this. I have balance and rune on there. G projects, Dungeonmans. I have a file naming scheme here. It's going to be dm crypt lp. And I will not write the marker. Marker doesn't matter. Okay, that rendered. So now if I take that file and load it into any program, you don't need to do anything with markers or anything like that. It will just loop. So if you play it back, it will loop. It's very nice. Now, here's the advanced way of doing it. There is another way. And this is for cases where... Sorry. Okay. I don't know why the music keeps playing. I think it's when I render, it like plays during the render or something like that. Anyway, so what I was saying was there's another way to do it, another way to do the loop, and that's in cases where what I just showed you, sometimes that will create an unpleasant noise at the beginning of the track. So like let's say the tail... Okay, let's do a hypothetical. Like, let's just say, for the sake of example, that we wanted to loop it right here. So we didn't want any of this to the right. Now, if I were to put this at the beginning, that's not going to work too well, because then the first time you play the track, it's going to sound kind of messy. So here's the Super Street Fighter loop technique. Okay, so this actually stays exactly the same. I'm going to put a marker there for reference. Now I'm going to pick an arbitrary point earlier on in the song. And check this out. This point becomes the loop start marker. Then I'm going to take everything before that marker and put it back here at the end of the song. Right on that first marker. So when you first play the song, it's exactly what you would expect. Then back here, what we're going to do is have it end. The song will end abruptly like this. It'll just get cut off. But instead of looping back to the very beginning, we loop to that second marker. So the loop is actually from this point here at the end, so this first, to the second marker like this. And I'll play you what that sounds like. So notice how that also loops 100% seamlessly when it gets to the end of the file. It's something that you would use in cases where that first method... Oh, whoops. Sorry about that. It's because of the... Hold on. It's Reaper's streaming. That's why you didn't hear it. Okay, wait. I'll fix that. Okay. One more time. So if I play this back... Once again, from the end of the track. Ah, really? Oh, that's weird. Oh, okay. Sorry again. All right, let's try one more time. All right. So this is playing at the end of the track. There we go. Okay. So that's what I was trying to demonstrate. By doing it this way, you're putting the beginning of the song on the left, at the end of the song on the right, and then instead of looping back to the very beginning, you loop it at that wherever you split the beginning. So the advantage of this method is that when you first play the file back, if I play it from the beginning, you don't hear any tail from the end of the loop, because the loop is actually this highlighted part here. So it's a little bit of an advanced technique, but this is actually really useful for stuff where you have like a really long tail. Exactly. It can be a lot better for some things when you want a very, very clean loop that will always be perfect. We use this for Monkey Island 2 Special Edition, which I worked on a few years ago. It was a game project. And it was literally the only way to do it because we used live instruments, and the live instruments would bleed too much into the start of the song. So if you just let them fade out normally and then loop back to a middle point, then it becomes a lot easier. So if you're interested in trying this yourself, it's really easy to do with just Reaper, and then you can test the loop by just highlighting a section and playing it back with the loop on in the bottom left. So with wrap remainder, you can do it that way, but you might not want the tail at the end of the song. Like, let's say you had a cymbal crash at the end. You might not want to hear that when you first play the file back from the beginning. So it can work if you don't have anything like that. But if you do have something really loud at the end and you don't want to hear that when you first play it, then you would use this method instead. So, they both achieve the same thing of a seamless loop. But yes, I do this with the final completed song. So this is the final crypt thing. I actually do have some tutorials on my YouTube channel, but they're mostly for synthesis like Zebra 2, and I also show some instruments and samples that I use. But I haven't really posted this publicly, and it's 99%, it's not 100%, but I am actually going to be doing an FL Studio course. It's like I'm not going to say what site it's with yet, but it's with a very well-known training video site. So it's going to be 3 hours of tutorials, from the very basics, how to basically use FL, to some of the advanced audio editing, some mixing stuff. So it's actually going to be 3 separate courses. The first one is 101. The second one is going to be some of the advanced tools and techniques in FL. And then the third one is going to be, I think I said, it's going to be some specific synthesis and editing things. So if you use Edison in FL Studio. So that hopefully is going to happen within the next month. I hope it does. If it does, then I'm going to link everybody, and it should be pretty cool. If it really goes well, if they really like what I do, then I'd love to make even more tutorials. They're going to be really highly produced, HD. I'm recording them in a vocal booth, so my voice sounds much more clear. Stereo, 24-bit, all that other stuff. So that's the end goal, but first I have to do the FL tutorials. Anyway, so that is basically what I wanted to show. Making this track, we did it over the course of 2 live streams, and then looping it, have the completed version, I could send it off to the developer. And, it just goes to show there's really no magic process involved. It's just, training your ear, using improvisation, and a lot of trial and error. A lot of making stuff that doesn't sound good before you make something that does sound good. Plug in MIDI to a channel that doesn't play. Are you talking about FL Studio for that? Or are you talking about a different DAW program? Okay, well, if that's something you're interested in, just if you follow my Facebook page, I'm going to post as soon as those FL courses are up. And I'm going to show exactly how to do literally everything from configuring your audio interface to recording MIDI, recording audio, editing, all that other stuff. So hopefully you'll get something out of that if you check it out. Anyway, it's about dinner time for me, so I'm going to head out for now. But I'm going to post this whole live stream on my YouTube channel. You can check out the previous one is currently on my channel if you want to go back and hear what it sounded like and how we got to this point. It is, let's see, if you just click on videos, it's live stream composing retro RPG music for Dungeonmans. So you can go check that out. And then just one more time, not to harp on it. Well, actually, I do want to harp on it, but thank you for coming. But just like, please check the game out that I'm writing this music for. It's really awesome. And remember, you can actually download and play it like for free. You don't have to donate anything to try it out. It's just that the campaign is to make it a full game, a full adventure with a full soundtrack. You know, this is sort of the alpha version, and it's already good. So if you like it, you know, please back it. Or at the very least, if you don't have the money to back it, that's fine. Just, you know, share it with your friends. Hit like on Facebook, share it on Twitter, all that other stuff. So, this is definitely the correct way to do it. I mean, there's already 9 updates. The game has been, you know, patched based on feedback from backers. It's awesome stuff. So thanks for joining me with the live stream. Feel free to post comments on the video or on my Facebook page, stuff that you want to see in more live streams. I heard mixing and mastering. I hear you on that. So, just let me know, and we'll do that in the future. So thanks, guys. Later.